All right, cool. Let's do some real quick body tapping. Real quick, before we sit down. Take one more big deep breath through our nose. All the way in. Exhale, big sigh. And then we can sit back down and we're going to get into the next part of the day, which is excellence is a process. So you guys have now qualitative goals. Qualitative, like a vision ultimately of who you want to be in all those different areas of your life, and the life that you ultimately are going to have when you start to employ the habits that we're going to talk about here in a bit is going to be all of those things combined into one. That's pretty powerful. And you might look at that whole list and it might seem overwhelming. It might seem like a lot. It might seem like it's going to be difficult to understand how you're going to move from the person you are today to that person, but it really isn't as difficult as you might think. It's just a matter of taking the necessary action and creating the proper process. I mentioned that when I started my weight loss journey at the age of 19, I didn't have a weight loss goal in mind. I didn't have a specific number in mind that I wanted to attain. Not, I want to lose 50 pounds or I want to be 220 pounds. And I'm actually very, very happy that I didn't, because had I probably would have said, again, I was like 300. So I probably would have said, okay, I want to be 250 or 230 or 220, 215 maybe, because that's what I was in high school. And not only would that have been limiting in terms of understanding how far I could have really taken it, but it also probably would have felt like very discouraging, because that's a long way to go. And if you think about how long it's going to take and how much work it's going to take, it, of course, is enough to throw you off your game, to not even start, to be inconsistent. So, and I didn't really realize that this is what I was doing at the time, but instead of building an outcome goal, I built a process-oriented goal. And I mentioned the first thing I did was I had a whiteboard in my room. And this is all totally true. I wrote excellence at the top of the whiteboard. I don't know why I wrote that. It was just the thing that was enough to kick me in the ass to get to the gym every day. My goal, like I said, wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't to lose 125 pounds and be a bodybuilding champion. It was to be in the gym 5 days a week. If I was in the gym 5 days a week, that was the version of myself that I knew I liked better based on a previous version of myself. So that's what I had to do to remind myself of that version of myself that I liked better. That's all I did. I put my weight up on the board every Friday. I got up, I weighed myself, I would erase the number, I would put up the new weight for the week. And like I said, it got a little bit more challenging to hit that 1 or 2 pounds a week. So I cut out soda, and then I cut out snacks, and then I cut out little by little, just dialed in my health, up the ante as I started to plateau, or if I found myself plateauing. But it was really just a matter of being in the gym, little by little. Lost that weight. And then eventually around 220 or so, like I said, that's when Hesh Donnerstag, who, by the way, please remind me to reach out to him and thank him and tell him I'm talking about him in front of a group of people. I haven't talked to Hesh, my personal trainer, for my bodybuilding in years. But that's when he came to me. And at that point, the standard for excellence raised quite a bit. The workouts got a lot harder. The diet got a lot more intensive. The entire process got a lot harder. But the only reason why I was able to even commit to that, or to believe that I was even capable of that, was because I started with this process. And again, at the age of 19, to me, the only standard for excellence was 5 days a week in the gym. That was literally it. And I just did that enough until it became the norm. And then I was able to up the ante little by little. And it's critical that when we're thinking about all the things that you put on your wheel of life, that we're thinking about them in terms of the process, because excellence is a process. We can't be thinking of it in terms of the outcome that we're looking to expect, because the outcome, losing 20 pounds, let's say, always is going to occur in the future. It's always going to be external of us. It's always going to feel like it's outside of our reach. Whereas if we settle into our goals and think about them more in terms of the process or the actions that it's going to take to be necessary, not only are we actually thinking about it more in terms of the real expectation that we should have of ourselves for the goal, but it puts all of that power right into our hands, right into the present moment, and not some external future state. So really quick, I'm going to breeze through this. There's 3 different ways that you could set a goal. And this is a study that has proved that a process-oriented goal is always going to trump any of the other goals. Outcome-oriented goals would be like, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to find the perfect partner. Again, external, wanting, craving something that isn't in your hands just yet. And because it's an outcome and there's really not even like a starting point necessarily with a goal like this, the effect size, meaning the likelihood of actually following through on it, is trivial. It's minimal, unlikely. Think about everything that you ever said that you wanted to accomplish, how many of those things fell out the window. And again, if we tally that up across everybody in the room, everybody in the world, a lot of times we say we want something and it doesn't come to fruition. That's because we're setting outcome goals. A performance goal is a little bit different. This is performance-based. So I want to run a 6-minute mile, or I want to play Freebird on the guitar. We're slightly more likely to actually achieve our goal. And I think the reason for that, we're still not great, still unlikely in the grand scheme of things, but at least better than an outcome goal. And I think the reason is, if we have a performance goal, like running a 6-minute mile, well, at least I know the first thing that I should probably do if I want to accomplish that. What would be the first thing to do if you wanted to run a 6-minute mile? Run, just run. If you want to learn Freebird, what's probably a good starting point? Pick up and play the guitar. You're not going to learn Freebird if you don't. Whereas losing 20 pounds or finding the perfect partner, there's a infinite ways that you could start that process, and it's up to you to figure out the plan. At least with the performance goal, we have the starting point, but we don't have the consistency part. We don't know how to actually get there once we start. So that's why process goals are so valuable. And if you look at things in terms of a process goal, it's going to go a whole lot further, is because when we set something like working out 5 times a week or meal prepping weekly, that effect size is astronomical compared to the other ones. And that's because we are in control of the process. So why does the process win? Because you can always execute the process. You can't snap your fingers, say a magic word, and drop 20 pounds, but you can lace up your sneakers and get the fuck to the gym and then do it again tomorrow. You can't control the outcomes. You can control the reps. You can control showing up. You can control the process. Once you see that consistency over time, that consistency, you understand how it compounds. How sure, after 2 weeks of hitting the gym 5 times a week, I had 2 pounds worth of weight loss to show for it. I had 2 pounds of weight loss after 2 weeks. But after I did that for 2 months, after I did that for 9 months, after I did that for 14 months, after I've done it for 2 years, after I've done it for 2 decades, I've seen how that consistency compounds, not just in that one specific goal, but how it compounds for me personally in my identity. Because the identity is built through action. You can't be a reader if you don't read. You can't be a writer if you don't write. You can't be fit if you don't get in the gym. You can't be a guitarist if you don't pick up and play the guitar, or a drummer if you don't play the drums. The identity is built through the doing. And like I said, sometimes it's easier to change what we do than it is to change how we think. So if we just set a clear process for ourselves and we follow through on it, all that personal power, all that agency and that decision making that we've ceded to that age of distraction or age of convenience, those distractions, those apps, we start to regain all of that integrity, all of that power, and that builds our identity as somebody who gets shit done, somebody who follows through, somebody who does the thing they say they're going to do. There's nothing more powerful than that. So ultimately the process wins, and process goals wins, because the process is in and of itself the win. Just by showing up to the gym, you accomplished your goal and you are winning. So when it comes to all those areas of your wheel of life, when we start to develop the plan, the key is it's not to develop the most outrageous plan ever. It's literally just to say, okay, like if I want to, for example, lose weight or get in better shape, what specifically do I want that to look like? And how many times, how much time, how much energy do I need to devote to going to the gym? 3 days a week, 4 days a week, an hour, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter. It is up to you. It is based on your standard of excellence, in the same way that my standard of excellence is based on my goals. But it has to be in a process. If you want to start a business, there are certain steps to starting a business, but you have to sit down and just get to work on it. So blocking off a couple hours throughout the course of the week and just doing whatever you can get done in that couple of hours is going to be better than not having any process outlined for yourself. And we're going to do that together here today. Aristotle, Anybody not know who Aristotle is? Aristotle's a famous Greek philosopher. He says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And again, I didn't realize that when I wrote excellence, that I was literally building a habit and a habit tracker for myself, but that's what I was doing. Because once again, you can't be fit if you're not working out. You can't be a great guitarist if you don't play the guitar. So if we want to be excellent in anything, we have to develop it into a habit. That habit means consistency. We're not a guitar player if we pick up the guitar once. We're not the fit person we want to be if we just show up to the gym once. And then I have to give credit where credit's due, because this quote is actually incorrectly attributed to Aristotle. It's actually this other guy named Neville Goddard, I believe. When it comes to outcome-oriented goals, again, we can kind of think of that. If we're being greedy, if we're talking about the things we want to have, it's probably, chances are we've set a pretty poor goal for ourselves. Because outcome goals are based on what we want to have, external, outside of us, want. Process-oriented goals are when we lean into and we really settle in on who do we want to be. And you just wrote who you want to be for all of those various areas of your life on that wheel of life. If you want to be somebody who is fit or be an entrepreneur, well, you have to ask yourself, what would that person believe? What would they have to believe about themselves or about the world or about the way things work? Chances are, if you want to be fit, you're going to believe that spending time and energy on your health, on your diet, on your fitness is important to you. So you're going to behave in a way where you follow through on those things. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then you're going to believe that challenges are part of the process. You're going to believe that taking risks, scary risks, is important to the process. So how are you going to behave? In accordance with all of those beliefs, correct? And that's why discipline, again, is not necessarily hard. It's just being the person that you want to be and acting in accordance with those behaviors and the beliefs of that person. So, if we know the formula for success now, and babe, I'm going to need you to come up here and start writing some more excuses up on the board. But I'm going to ask us, if we know the formula for success, so we know that that's going to get us to every single goal that we ever want, and instead of setting outcome-oriented goals, we're setting everything very clearly. We have certain fitness goals. That means we have certain fitness processes that we need to build. We have certain relationship goals. That means we have certain relationship processes that we want to build. We need to spend time on those things. The process is the win. We have full control over showing up. Who said earlier, showing up is the key? If the win is just showing up, then we always have control over the outcome. So I'm going to ask you guys, why would we fail? And again, you can think about it in terms of your own goals that you've just set for yourself, that wheel of life. You're still, something in the back of your mind is thinking that you're not going to be able to do it. It's okay. That's why we take 7 hours here today. But the question is, why would you fail? What is the thing in the back of your mind telling you why you won't be able to accomplish it?